Thursday, the Judicial Service Commission named their nomination, their choice for the position of Chief Justice, naming Justice David Maraga, judge at the Court of Appeal, for the position of Chief Justice, beating 12 other candidates to that position. That process, that name has been handed over to the President Uhuru Kenyatta. It will also go to Parliament to be vetted and passed if the members of Parliament deem that fit. Jubilee has vowed to push for the passing of the name of David Moraga. Let me start with you, Abdi. What sort of Chief Justice would David Moraga be?
Well, so far, there are all indications based on his track record.
Yes.
No doubt, it is the best kind of replacement and reward we could give to the legacy of the immediate former Chief Justice Willie Mutunga. I'm sure all quarters have alluded the same way and congratulated the choice. I also take this opportunity to congratulate the choice, and I have said, his track record speaks for itself. He has been non-partisan on any political affiliations, and I believe this is the kind of leadership we want for our judiciary system.
All right.
Hopefully, we will request all the other two arms of the government to give him the cooperation and the support he needs, so that he can move very fast and maintain the momentum of what was initiated by Willie Mutunga. Otherwise, my take is it is a good choice for us, and we are wishing him all the best.
All right. Brian, yeah. David Maraga has been seen as a neutral, the safe pair of hands, for the position of Chief Justice. Is not very polarized, for lack of a better word.
Sure.
What would he bring to the table?
I think his personal attributes first actually worked for him, in the sense that his modest temperament actually was one of the factors that the JCC went for. Being an insider also, with the kind of experience on the workings of the judicial system, is also something that the JCC also capitalized on and awarded him a lot of, score in terms of the ranking, having beaten the likes of Macau and the likes of heavyweights like Smoking Wanjala, who was actually touted to be one of the front runners for capturing that seat. Justice Maraga, to me, I think, first of all, I've not congratulated him. Let me do so and wish him well. Actually, as he also, as he said, picks the pieces from where actually Chief Justice Mutunga picked from or left. And it, in this case, is actually likely now to show the members of the judicial system who are aspiring also to rise up through the ranks that there is hope. That here I am one of you. I have actually come of age, and here I am, and I'm able to also participate at the top level decision-making process. JCC also looked at somebody who would actually bring a good, harmonious working relationship with the executive. Some people would say, yes, there was the hand of the executive, but to me, it's not true, because I would see Justice Maranga as a person who would actually, as opposed to Mutunga, who somehow had some hardline stance in working with the executive and also the legislative arm of the government, Maraga here brings a little bit of, flexibility and a little bit of tolerance in terms of juggling and balancing the three arms of the government. So to me, is the ultimate choice for the Supreme, Court.
Dismas.
Well, when you look at Justice Maraga, three things come to play. He had about 25 years in a private practice, appearing before the bench and holding his briefs on a daily basis. So he understands the tribulations of the lawyers in the private practice when they go to court and how they're supposed to be sorted out. And again, when he went to court, he went straight to the High Court before going to the Court of Appeal. And one of the hallmarks of Justice Maraga is that all his judgments at the High Court, nobody has ever questioned the reasoning. That the reasoning is so solid that about 70 of his judgments are quoted all over the world in all Commonwealth jurisdictions, and it forms the basis of, those are the lawyers refer to them as ratio decidendi. That if you're studying law right now, it's likely that you will be reading the works of Justice Maraga, and on that aspect, they say he's got the intellectual integrity. Now, intellectual integrity is what has been lacking within the judiciary. There are people sometimes. Write judgments, which if you go to the next court, if you appeal, then they're overturned. And when you speak to lawyers, they say that every judgment he has made in the High Court, if anybody wanted to go to the Court of Appeal, it was because they were going to buy time. They are not going to question him on issues of law. So what has been in short supply within the judiciary, that's what he brings on board, the intellectual integrity, which has been really in short supply. And then number two, there used to be, or rather there are factions within the judiciary today, because you have the judges who came from the Moi era, and then judges who came from 2003 after the Ringera aborted surgery, and then of course the ones under the new constitution. And there's been a conflict between those three groups of judges, and it appears see him as somebody who can easily come and breathe reason to all those three categories. And then, of course, number three, his biggest role is going to be in a presidential petition. It's anticipated that these politicians, when their candidates win or lose, somebody is going to rush to court. And he's been in charge of the Judicial Committee on Electoral Reforms, and he's been working very closely with the National Assembly. And when you speak to members of the National Assembly, they say in Justice Maraga, you see one hell of a bright man who is very firm, who is not going to be compromised. And he admitted during the vetting process that he's among the few judges who've never taken a bribe, meaning that he knows his colleagues who've been taking bribes, and he also knows the lawyers who've been giving bribes. So for him, the moment he gets sworn in, it's very easy for him to catch those corruption cartels within the judiciary. Right. And I was speaking with a number of my lawyers who know him very well. They said, if you give Justice Maraga any judgment, he will go through it, and he'll tell you who has been bribed, or who has been compromised. And with that kind of fear within the judiciary, I think people are going to respect him. And of course, needless to say, that erroneously it's claimed that he comes from a minority community. And that's why he was given the position, because some analysts believe that Kenya has been suffocated by the so-called big tribes, that because he comes from a minority community, he's been given the position, and also his age, that he'll only be able to determine one presidential petition. After that, it's going to be a revolving door and somebody will walk in. But again, I know right now there are so many people who are trying to understand where does he come from? Because he's a very strong SDA person. He's actually an elder, and he's got a lot of political capital and reputation that he has to protect. So it's unlikely that he's going to venture into any mischief. If you look at him, he carries himself with decorum, and I think Kenya is going to be in a very solid place.
All right, we'll come back to talk about more. Let's hear what Jared has to say about this. Jared, we are coming from the era of William Mutunga, who was picked from activism or the civil society. Now, we have gone the way of Justice David Maraga. He's a man of the system. He's seen as a safe pair of hands. What do you think about his tenure as Chief Justice, when or if confirmed?
Well, thank you, Ben. I think the judiciary has recovered itself. When an outsider in the name of Justice William Mutunga was brought into the judiciary to take care of the courts, he did not have the in-depth workings of a court of law. And that is why, during his tenure, there is nothing substantial in the name of jurisprudence that you can say that he shepherded. You look at the presidential petition, for instance, that is a kind of decision that cannot be used as an authority in any court in the world. And that is what we can remember him for. So what we can say that he did was infrastructural development. He did set up several courts across the country. He did build new buildings. For instance, Kisumu, where I sit, there is a new Court of Appeal building, and so many others that he did across this country. Of course, again, he also tried to reduce the case backlogs by setting up courts across the country and making sure that the justice system is brought closer to the people. But in terms of jurisprudence, it is a nil. But that is why when Justice Maraga came into office, of course, as my brother Dismas has said, he practiced as a lawyer in Nakuru for 25 years. He was in the court of in High Court for I think 8 years. Now he's still in charge of the appellate court in Kisumu. So he's bringing a wealth of experience into the system, and that is a man whom you can see that even in terms of jurisprudence, when we talk about the pirates case, he's one of the judges who said that in terms of those pirates, you can universally prosecute them anywhere in the world as long as the name pirate sits with them. So these are wonderful jurisprudence that he has put in place, together with so many that we cannot mention at the moment. But this is a man of impeccable character. He's bringing in a lot of integrity into his work. And, you know, during that interview, he personally asked for a Bible, raised it up and said, I have never taken a bribe and I will never take a bribe. I think maybe there are two more, or maybe there is none, who can, with that kind of certainty, carry the Bible and say. And you look at our judicial system, the judicial officers who are modeled with the issues of corruption each and every time. That a case presented before them, it only depends on where the bread is buttered. But a judge of a court of law who can raise a Bible and say he has never and will never, that definitely sends a lot of jitteries and, you know, fears along the spines of the cartels that Justice Mutunga did talk about. So I think we are going to make gigantic steps towards judicial progress, and we, as the people of Kenya, for the very first time, we are going to have confidence in at least one arm of government. You look at the executive, it is rodden and riddled with corruption. You look at what happens in the National Assembly and the Senate, there is nothing to write home about. But if the Supreme Court and the court of this land can at least have levels of confidence where justice will be dispensed, firstly without due regard to technical or procedural technicalities, as is espoused in Article 159, then I think we are on the right path.
All right,
those
Jared,
cartels.
Yes. Final question I was asking.
Yeah, well, I'm only finishing to say that. Oh, go ahead.
Yes, I was saying some critics have said that it will be easy. Now that we're speaking about the three arms of government, it would be easy for the executive to push him around. What do you think about that?
Well, I do know that he derives a lot of comfort. He derives a lot of his conviction from the Holy Word, which is the Bible. As one panelist has indicated, he's a very staunch Adventist, and he pays a lot of attention to his faith. And I think during the interview, he was challenged by a question such as, when a presidential petition has to go through the Sabbath, what would you do? And he categorically said that, you know, a petition is not an emergency, and therefore I will not come. You know, that is the epitome of any case that a judicial system can litigate. But here is somebody who is saying, the president of the court, coming up to say that I will not attend. To me, that is a testament that you cannot bend such a person. Whether you gang up as the members of National Assembly, which they have done numerous times, or whether they do use the influence from the House on the Hill, State House, to try to tinker with a judicial process. I think this is a man who will stand on his ground and let the rule of the law take precedent over any other thing or any other consideration ban.
All right, thank you, Jared. Thank you. That is all we love from you. And of course, you will be missing from the show for about a month. I hope you'll be back, right?
Yeah, about a month and a half. About a month and a half.
All right, thanks, Jared. Jared coming to us from Kisumu. Yes, Brian?
We will miss him and we wish him well, Jared, on his adventures, wherever he is. Ben, it will be actually unfair if we do not discuss this, you know, a nomination through the political lens, in the sense that it has its own implications of the political scenario of the day. Justice Maraga comes from the Gusii family, And Gusii family, to me, has been all along been up for grabs by the political machinations of the day. To me, it will have some sort of a ripple effect in the sense that if you listen to the Fox prop from the ground, if you listen to the Fox prop based on the ground and how the news has been received,
Yes.
the layman down there, the common man there, to him, this is a sort of executive appointment, and you cannot take that away from them. And it's the right
Is
to
that
do
the
so.
case this month?
No,
Is
no,
it-
no. Wait a minute, let me finish up.
no,
For
there's
an
no
elite
time.
like me, yes. But for the local commoners, to them, you are not going to, separate this appointment from the executive of the day, and therefore, it is going to have some implications of the political rearrangement and even affiliation of the voters on the ground.
But Brian,
as far
this
as
is a
2017 is
nomination
concerned.
by the
Ben-
Judicial Service Commission.
That's
The,
right.
the executive, which is controlled by Jubilee, hasn't had its input yet.
It has nothing to do with that.
Ben, I wish
It
It was
to,
an
What I'm saying-
independent process.
Yeah.
Ben, I wish to state that.
Would you allow
based
me
on
to
merit.
finish up, please?
Obviously.
Okay.
If I may finish up. It's not about you, Dismas, and you as elites of the day. But we are talking about
How is
the
it an
word on the
appointment?
ground. What?
How is it an appointment?
It is not appointment of the executive. It has nothing to do. But to them, the Jubilee, a CJ coming from their region
Alright.
at a time when Jubilee is in power, to them, they are not going to separate these two.
It's part of the
It's
goodness
going to
by
be
the
a
government,
plus.
perhaps, that's
It is
what
going
it
to
means.
be a
Alright.
plus for the government, for the Jubilee government, even in solidifying the
Alright.
Gusii community
Alright.
as far as voting patterns are concerned.
Yes,
Ben,
this must.
I'm proudly a member of the Kisii
Okay,
Nation.
Gusii.
Oh.
And I would state that, number one, what Brian is attempting to do is the Jubilee spin. Whatever happens in government, whether it's raining cats and dogs, whatever it is, Jubilee would want to take credit over it. Whether or not it's the case, it's a material. But looking at Justice Maraga, number one, it does not have political capital in Kisii. And even from his name, majority of people from the Kisii Nation do not know whether he's actually a Kisii. So for you to attempt to say that his appointment is going to give Jubilee political capital, that's you're shooting in the dark. And then number two, Kisii is a very democratic state, the most democratic nation rather in Kenya, where you have members elected from all manner of political parties. Right now as we speak, there is TNA in Kisii, there is ODM, there is Fort Kenya, there is the NAC of Charity Ngilu. And when Kisiis are taking a decision, they do not care who is in government. They look at their bank balances, they look at their wallets. And Justice Maraga's appointment is not going to increase the cost of tea or coffee wherever they are selling it. So his appointment is just going to be just a normal appointment. And believe you me, Justice Maraga is not going to Kisii Stadium tomorrow morning and say that now I'm doing a homecoming. I'm
Yeah.
one of your son was going to Nairobi who's been given this job. And I would almost bet my head that all the MPs who've been and other leaders trying to associate his nomination, calling him and telling him, Mzee, congratulations, I suspect he's not even returning those calls.
All right.
The only people
I think
who should be very happy are strong Christians, because for him, his fidelity is to the Bible. And you recall what Jared Okela said in Kisumu. His fidelity is to the Kenyan constitution and nothing else.
Speaking of that spin, Abdi, very quickly, will Jubilee be very eager to marshal for Parliament to confirm his appointment, his nomination?
I believe so. And I think either side, not only Jubilee, across the divide, the key principals have already indicated their consent and have congratulated Maraga, like we have done here. But I also wish to take from what Brian has said, that yes, it could be come campaigns, people will use all sort of propaganda. Like where I come from now, the majority party leader goes and tells everybody in the market and in Garissa Township that Jubilee has rewarded us with this, and if you elect me back this time, still you will get this position.
Sure.
The common ordinary voter now believes this is a privilege and a position preserved for you, society.
All right.
So we have to demystify some of these things, like Brian has said. And in my area, the majority party leader is a Kenyan position, and it's normally given to the party that happens to elect majority members to the parliament.
All right, let's leave it there.
For Maraga, I think it was done, a process done fairly and on merit by the Judiciary Service
All
Commission.
right, thank you, gentlemen. Political commentators Dismas Mokua and Brian Mutie, and the Deputy Party Leader of the Amani National Congress, Abdi Ali. Thank you so much for joining us on Sunday edition. That's where we leave it.